In this Kingdoms of Amalur Re-Reckoning guide video, we're going to be taking a look at sorcery builds and just exactly what you might do with a sorcery build or how you might play one. I think out of all the build types I've messed around with, sorcery probably has the most versatility on things you can do because of the spell variety. You can summon. You can also play like a melee character if you're mostly into sorcery as well, and then use a lot of spells. So there's a lot of things you can do with sorcery, so let's take a look at that. So first up, taking a look at the Destiny, the Final Destiny Archmage for sorcery. You'll notice that you're going to get a lot of elemental damage, mana cost reduction, mana regen. This is going to allow you to cost a lot of spells, increase duration. You're going to get a teleport, and you're going to have a chance to spawn basically summons when you kill an enemy. I don't know exactly what the chance of that is, but that's a pretty good bonus. So this is something you're going to be doing if you're really focusing heavily on elemental damage. You'll notice even if you drop down to sorcery, you're still going to get a ton of elemental damage and mana cost reduction, mana regeneration, increased duration. You're going to have a teleport still. You're just going to be missing that final bonus. So it makes sorcery builds very good at hybriding as well as being pure, because they're going to get a lot of good bonuses even at that tier 5 if they want. That's not even looking at hybrid destinies. When it comes to might sorcery hybrid builds, if you look at the Destiny, their champion, you're going to notice immediately that there's a much larger focus on melee damage, armor, elemental resistance, and gaining mana when you get hit. So if you're going to be playing a might sorcery hybrid, you're probably going to be focusing, at least if you're taking the, hybrid Destiny here, you're going to be focusing very much on melee damage more than you're going to be focusing on spell casting, unless you take the sorcery Destiny. And this is a tough choice for, if you're going to play a hybrid. I think probably, in my opinion, if you're going to play a sorcery might build, you're probably better off just taking the sorcery Destinies, because I think in this game you already have tons of survivability, especially if you're putting enough points into warrior as it is to wear warrior armor. You're going to be very, very tanky. So I don't think you need all this damage reduction, especially if you're going to be casting spells at range some of the time. So if you're going to play a might hybrid build with sorcery, I'm not sure I would take the might sorcery Destiny. I might instead just take the sorcery Destinies. That's not to say you can't do that, because if you build your character right with these Destinies, with the total armor and elemental resistances, you can basically become immortal. You have damage reduction buff from sorcery, so between that damage reduction buff, the passives from might, and these, you're basically going to take almost no damage. Even on very hard, you can just sit there and basically stand there, and you'll probably never die if you build it correctly. Of course, that's really up to you, whether you want to build something so tanky you can't die and it just takes you longer to kill things, or if you would rather play a little more risky and, have a bit higher damage. Looking over the finesse sorcery Destinies, you're going to notice shadowcaster immediately. What's really great about this is it still has the elemental damage that the sorcery Destinies have. So you're still going to be able to cast spells very effectively. It has piercing damage, which is great for bladed weapons. Critical hit chance, which is good for spells and bladed weapons. Mana regeneration. The bonus of Dread guaranteeing a critical hit on enemies that are panicked. Panic doesn't happen that often, so I think it's a little bit better on paper than it is in practice. It gives you a teleport, the poison effect, which is nice, and then you drain mana when you critical hit. Finesse's builds are obviously, they revolve a lot around critical hits, so that's a very good bonus. So this is a very good, sort of setup if you want to use spells and you still want to melee, or you want to use spells and you want to use a bow. Either one, this is a very, very good setup. I think it's a bit better than the might sorcery combination, primarily because, again, I don't think you need as much survivability as what might sorcery gives you, and it only limits the damage bonus you get to melee, where this gives you damage to your piercing, which whatever weapon you're using as piercing, as well as elemental damage. So if you're looking to play like sort of a hybrid build where you're meleeing and doing damage, I think you're going to find that you're going to do more damage with this build. And if you do might sorcery, you're probably going to have a lot more survivability, except for that stun, extra damage against stunned enemies combo, where you can stun things and then deal damage. I think the only problem with shadowcaster is if you want to play like a melee caster type thing with finesse sorcery, you're going to need far more points into sorcery in order to get the best spells at the end of the tree, which means you're probably not going to be able to take shadowcaster. Because you're going to have to favor sorcery a bit more than you're going to have to favor finesse. Because frankly, all you really need from finesse is a couple of the mastery skills and the skills on the left-hand side for the abilities, and maybe a couple of other passives, like blade honing or something like that. So you're not going to need as heavy investment, which means you're going to miss out on that drain mana, bonus, which is really unfortunate because that's really, really good. I haven't covered this in the other videos, but I'm going to cover it here since I don't think I'm going to do a fourth video just specifically for Universalist. But I think Universalist might actually be the best, or one of the best overall destinies in the game combinations. I mean, you get melee attack damage, ranged attack damage, magic attack damage. So you can be a hybrid, any sort of hybrid that uses magic and still do exceptional damage. You can use a bow and magic, melee and magic. If you're just talking about hybrid builds, you have excellent synergy here. If you're using chakrams, for example, I'm pretty sure those are considered ranged weapons, so you're going to get that ranged attack for using chakrams in sorcery. So this is very, very good for that. You're also going to get +3 to all skills. I mean, this is ridiculous. I don't think most skills can go over their cap by 3, so some of that's going to be wasted. But it's going to allow you to have basically a super buffed up version of every skill that you have, which is great. And a lot of the best skills in these trees are at the lower levels anyway, so this is going to be very good because you're not going to be able to get super high into the trees, spreading your points all over the place. Total damage resistance is great. If you have the damage resistance from the sorcery skill tree, you're going to tack this on with that. You're going to have something like 30% total damage resistance. That's crazy. You get crit chance as well, and you also unlock all the weapon mastery abilities, which I'm pretty sure is the ones on the left-hand side. So you can go all the way up to the top of those, even if you can't reach the top of the tree. And some of these. So that's very, very, very good. Just some final thoughts about sorcery in general. I think it's probably, for me, out of everything I've messed around with, probably the most fun to play. You can play melee with sorcery. You can play range with sorcery. You can just play spellcaster with sorcery. And you can be tanky. You can be squishy. You can use all kinds of different weapons with it, and it still works. I think it gives you the most build variety in terms of what you can do. If you look at might and finesse, I mean, basically they're revolving around specific playstyles, mostly with long swords, great swords, hammer and might, or fey blades, daggers and bows and finesse. And this only has 3 weapons as well, but you can use spells with any weapon, so I think it really gives you a lot more variety. Another thing that's really interesting about the weapon types in the sorcery tree that I think adds to that variety element is the fact that you can get like staffs, or you can get scepters with different elements on them. They can deal different damage. Like, for instance, scepters can deal all fire damage, or all ice damage, or all lightning, instead of physical, which gives you the option to build like a lightning build, or a frost build, or have one weapon be frost and one be fire, which I think is something you kind of miss out on in the other ones. I'm not saying that, this is better in any way or not better in any way, but I definitely like the fact that there's a little bit more of a variety there, and you can specialize a little bit better, because there are items in the game that give you increased fire damage or increased lightning damage, so you can focus on one element and really, nail that in. As I mentioned in previous videos, we're going to be streaming this game a bit more on Twitch next week, so stop by if you have questions on the Twitch channel, or you just want to talk builds or whatever. And also be sure to check out the wiki that we have for Kingdoms of Amalur if you have other questions about the game.